Welcome everybody, I'm Santiago Kneeland and this is The Divine Within, the invisible connection with God. Today we're going to talk about reframing religion. We're diving into a topic that touches every layer of the human experience, reframing religion, community, and the art of truly living a spiritual life. Religion wasn't meant to sit in books or rituals, it was meant to move, to serve, to transform. At its core, true religion is a life, a daily experience with connection, compassion, and the divine presence within each of us. I am honored to explore this with April Helen, a lifelong teacher, healer, and creative visionary with more than 30 years of experience as an art of living consultant. She is a service collaborator in the truest sense, walking with individuals and organizations towards deeper purpose, connection, and an embodied presence. Together we'll explore what it really means to live spiritually, in community and service, and in the simple, sacred rhythms of everyday life. So welcome, sister. It's always a pleasure having you here.
My pleasure. Aloha, brother, and all of you out there that we share this space with. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome. And well, we're going to be talking about continuance of our prior conversation where we were redefining religion. And now we want to, the intention here is to really take it a step forward because a lot of people were asking, what is it beyond just that personal connection with God? How can I live my religion in an active way, So let's start with this first segment, which is reframing religion and community. So religion isn't just belief, it's action. In this segment, we explore how true religion becomes a living force, inspiring service, building community, and awakening a universal sense of belonging. What if religion wasn't something you practiced, but something you became? So what can you tell us about this, sister, and how you live this?
Yes. I love that you brought in it's not what you have, it's what you become. And I really resonate with that. Put a stamp on that, patent that, that we as activators of our own personal experience on this planet in the midst of what we've surpassed the 8 billion mark in our humanity. And so it's even more important these days to have a wider landscape in these terms, because as our planet gets more culturally integrated to understand the different attitudes around the word religion, and also where we can find those unity points of the things that we all can move forward together in this united civilization is how I envision the planet at some point. So this word reframing religion, I immediately think of the fruits that your life bears.
Mm-hmm.
And as we activate more in integrity with the values that we say we have, that to me is that personal religion. And this idea of community in religion, which I think is equally important, socializing our spirituality. And as we've seen on a global scale, it's coming away from, or many philosophers and even scientists and even politicians that I have met are attempting to integrate this personal ideal into any vocation or organization or community. And we're in a really exciting time here in this era of transformation and technology catapulting towards future ages. So as technology and that whole realm move forward fast, it's even more important for us to have these conversations about mental maturity, spiritual maturity, community maturity. And I think that's where the art of universal language comes in. And like you said, we're bringing forward the conversations that we've had before. And what you suggested, instead of just redefining it, actually reframing it into what I would say at the fundamental level is altruistic living.
Okay.
How are you looking at your life as a part of the integrated whole? And you mentioned it last time. I think we were talking about the puzzle,
Yeah.
right? And who am I in this grand masterpiece? So it's an exciting topic for sure.
It is, and it's interesting because I mean one of the main things that people have commented and you know they took from the last conversation is okay, yes, we have this personal connection with God and we have this divine fragment in us that has that direct connection, but how do I live my life, you know, in a practical sense? How do I guide, you know, if I'm not, I mean, it's not that you're doing away with institutional religion. I think all institutional religions and, you know, any religion in this planet really has been evolving and then has some revelation into them, and you know it's been improving. It's like anything in life, it's not perfect, but if I'm not going to be basing, you know, my, or maybe I'm not going to be taking the Bible, let's say, for as my compass, maybe that I don't, that doesn't resonate with me. What can I take if you're saying that everything is within me? What can I take, or how can I be, or what is it in me that I can do in order to fulfill that, to really not just have that faith, but live that faith? Like we were saying, put that action into that faith. How do I do that?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that's coming up for me is acceptance that
Okay.
everybody else on the planet is having these thoughts exactly that we are. Even
Yeah.
if they may not even know it yet. And I love, and I use it a lot, this adage, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
use it too.
whenever I'm in a conversation with someone who I immediately feel is con friction,
Mm-hmm.
and I love those kind of conversations because it stokes the fire in me to
Yeah.
stay in the conversation, not run away from it, yet to stay in it and find that unification point.
Yeah,
That
that point that it's really going to trigger that connection, right?
Yeah, and we're all different. That's why even, and you're right, we're not downing institutionalized religions. There is certainly a place for socializing spirituality in that way. What we're advocating for is to not allow those institutionalized religions who put rules and boundaries on a personal relationship with God or your
Yeah,
creator or whatever you want to call it. They allow all information to come in, filter it with your own mind adjutants, if people know what those are, your thought adjuster, the fragment of God in you, or whatever you want to call it, the spirit of truth, the Holy Spirit, all of these entities that we have access to, really getting a clear and discerning transfer of information between you and those entities. So, what does this mean? Keeping your body temple clean,
yeah,
the chemicals that are rampant in our food and products, our home products, are in what science is coming out with. This is not just me talking about
yeah,
my philosophy. The science is catching up with all of this chemical action that we're bringing in is having an effect on how
yeah,
we mentally process and being
definitely.
able to receive and discern the information. If we're asking whomever you bow down to, if we're asking for this information, it's very important that we sit and listen, and in any way possible clean out or reduce the distractions that are coming
Mm-hmm.
in. So, sitting alone, going on a walk alone, being quiet and alone. Yeah, equally important, be in conversation. Be in conversation with those who are radically different than you and sticking with it, not running away, and
Yeah,
finding that unity point so that you can both progress and understand who you are so that you can add value to each other. It's just like a really well organized marriage or even a corporate team. All of these parts being equally intrinsically valuable to serve a role together for the future.
yeah, yeah, and definitely, and I mean, as you were speaking, and then you're talking about the community and how you're integrating and interacting with other people. I don't believe he's an atheist. He says he's an atheist, and he's the type of guys that says that anything in the Bible or any religious text is not really. It's just science fiction, right? But he's a very good guy, and he's a person that helps. He helps you when you need it, and he's definitely a good guy, and one day we were talking, and I said, I believe that you are truly more religious than many of the religious people that are, cite scripture, or that the law of God and everything. Because I mean, the way that you act and the values that you live your life by, that you really advocate, and that you do without even thinking that you're going to heaven. There's not, okay, I need to pay my dues in order to enter heaven. I mean, in your case, you don't even believe in that, but you are good. That is religion. That is, and that's the values that you're creating here. Those are the ones that really, when you die, I believe that's what's going to be eternal. So that really blew his mind, and you can see when somebody starts to think, they become quiet, and you see it in their head, and truly believe that you can really, if you live by your values first. Identify your values and live by them. It's not just I apply it well, in this case, and I don't apply them in this case. You have to live by them.
I really have been thinking about that a lot as I study values over the last 20 years and teach values-based
Mm-hmm.
programming. I have really sat with, well, what if there was one value that I would want to base my entire life on that encompasses all the other values? And some people might say love, and that I'm sure is for me as well a very high
Yeah.
valued concept. Yet I keep being pulled back to the word and the value of integrity,
Yes.
because integrity is where it's at in the alignment. So
Yeah.
once you have integrity, which is for me, a very progressive path, and I'm not there, and I don't think I'll ever be
Yeah.
there on
Yeah.
this planet, because my mind externally expressed
Mm-hmm.
sometimes is out of alignment. So I catch myself, and we talked about this in the last one, it's that inner dialogue.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
catch myself sometimes being this animal self, like, oh, I that's not me. That's my
And it's funny, but it gets to a point where you're not judgmental. You kind of step back and you see and you say, "What's wrong? Okay,
yeah,
what's going on?"
yeah.
Kind of that, right?
I'm much more quick in a conversation to catch myself and say it out loud and turn it around right in that moment. Like, and say, "Hey, I wanna reframe that. That's not what I meant." So this integrity point, I think, is a valuable piece to advocate for our listeners to really start observing where they are in their inner world versus their outer world expression, and seeing if that is in alignment. And if it's not, what can we do about it? And a lot, as I also help people become more service oriented, which, as most of you know out there, if you've heard me speak, this is a very important dharmic path, I would say, in
Mm-hmm.
my reality for myself, is to help people align their vocation with their talents and innate values,
Yeah.
so to help serve the greater good. And I think that vocation piece, the deeper I get into meditating and actualizing it for myself and others in my mentorship program, they often shift entirely from a career on an extreme
Yeah.
spectrum to get more of themselves in alignment, not only with their own integrity, yet the power that they can have when they're aligned with the vocation that can serve the greater good.
Yeah.
And that, I think, if we could get that in the public school system when children are like 7 or 8 years old, what a radical change within a few generations that this planet would observe. I think.
I agree with you. I think in order for us to be fulfilled and to have integrity, as you're saying, I think we need to understand not only ourselves, but really our vocation, as you're saying, really our really what makes us tick. And it's not a job. I don't think it's just a job. It's a vocation. I think I like the word that you use. And I mean, I'm just going to touch on a little bit of what I work on what I study, which is the Mayan mathematics and, the patterns and there's a concept, the combination of the tones and the seals. It's called the Oráculo del Destino, the Destiny's Oracle. If you break it down, it's like an equation. And it says, for instance, for me, in my case, it says, I pulse in order to serve creating the universal flow of water. And the universal flow of water is purification. So for me, if I'm serving, that's that's the key. And everybody has different things. And one is to organize it. There's different keys. But once you understand that equation about you, and a lot of when I show it to people, when they hear it, since it's an archetype, it really resounds in them, and I think that we have something inside of us that's programmed. And once we find that, once we find that vocation, it's really just a matter of letting it unfold in a way.
Yeah. God, I love that. So this is interesting because you can serve anywhere in any vocation,
Mm-hmm.
even outside of your vacation and vacation.
Yes,
Vocation,
exactly.
you can serve. You can serve. God, there's so many opportunities to serve, even if it's just shifting your energetic frequency to a more positive, joyful in a room full of negative Nancy's, right? That
Yeah,
is
exactly.
serving.
Yeah,
Yet
totally.
this, when as we speak about reframing religion in the conversation of an ideal vocation, then it ceases to be this word religion, which is so convoluted. It is your life.
Yeah,
Your religion is your life, and how you're
exactly.
expressing this totally unique experience that you're having with your creator, and how that fits into this grand picture. And so when I witness people shifting into a more aligned vocation, their spirit, their energetic frequency,
Yeah, yeah,
everything like gets an
yeah,
upgrade, an up level where the action isn't even important anymore. You're just being this new being. And then the more action that you produce in harmony and in service to the greater good of humanity, it exponentializes it.
yeah. It kind of gets
It's
speed.
so
It
powerful.
accumulates speed, and it gets just, it starts. Yeah, totally, totally. Well, that's really, I mean, a very good way of putting and reframing religion. On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.